Professor, it's me and Kenny Bon-Flores. So my coworker was out sick today, unfortunately, so I was not able to get her here to witness my speech, but I'm still doing my speech out of my hotel room. I'm going to show you now. Okay. That's water, by the way. Don't be freaked out. So without further ado, I'm going to begin the speech now. All right. My name is Kenny Bon-Flores. Today's date is November 30th, 2017. Password is sunset. I'm going to talk to you about voting and the importance of it in your lives. Let's take a step back and go back to 2016 on election night. Now, if you participated in the elections, you might have fallen in one of two camps. The first camp, you were dumbfounded by the results. The other hand, you were happy about the results. But at the end of the night, everyone was rocked by the amazing victory that President Trump had. If you support the president or not, it's not the question right now. The question is, do all of you support voting? I hope you do, because voting matters. It affects us each and every day in our lives. But unfortunately, voting has had a long and tumultuous history within our country. Prior to 1965, voting was rigged in the terms that minorities were oppressed by not being allowed to vote. Women were not allowed to vote. Originally, it was only white landholding men that were given this right. But through successive generations of fighting, we were able to get to where we are today. But before I get to that portion, we really need to step back a couple centuries and really examine how voting was. As I mentioned, prior to 1965, voting was only allowed as a right towards white men that held land. Eventually, this was extended to all free men, African Americans and women, with the 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendments. Now, this is great, good victories for our country. Yet still, many southern states actively pursued laws that would, without a doubt, oppress these same groups that had just won these victories. Such things as poll taxes, which meant you had to pay to go to the polls, gerrymandering, which created districts that benefited certain political parties and individuals, and literacy tests that measured whether someone was able to read or write as a qualification for voting. These, I would say, laws, which at the time were, actively spurred the population of the United States to fight for their civil rights and their civil liberties. Brave men and women in the 1960s decided to do that, and because of it, we eventually got the Voting Bill of 1965. Voting Acts, right, of 1965, I should say. And it completely changed the course of the nation. This act allowed all citizens to vote regardless of race, gender, sex, age, disability, or any other condition. Everyone was allowed to vote. Now, everyone is allowed to vote, but not everybody understands how it impacts them. I'm going to go through a couple examples. So, for those of you that live in Arizona, last year in 2016, Prop 206 was passed. And what this did, as it was voted upon, it allows for the minimum wage to rise up to $12 an hour by the year 2020 and guarantees 40 hours of sick time for all Arizonans. This affects both your pocketbook and your health. Speaking of health, your heart. And by that, I mean not your literal heart, but the heart of love. If you live in California, you might have had a chance to vote or heard about Proposition 8, which targeted marriage equality. This was such a contentious issue that the Supreme Court took it on and eventually ruled that same-sex marriages were the same equivalent standing as heterosexual marriages and completely changed the face yet again of the nation. Voting matters. These two issues, your heart, your pocketbook, matter. But even with that said, it's still amazing how so few people participate in such a process that has so many repercussions. Last year, as I said, people went out to the polls. Some decided not to. So, the Pew Research Center decided to do an investigation and a research article that measured how many people went out to vote. They measured the voting blocks of the millennial groups, Generation X, the greatest generation, and the baby boomers, and found out that up to 25% of each block decided to sit the election out. Do you know what that means? It means that for every 4 people, 3 were making decisions that would impact their life. I don't know about you, but I don't want anyone making decisions about my life not having a say in it. Now, we are coming up again on a crucial time, 2018. It will be 2 years since President Trump got elected, which means that elections are running again. Now, if you haven't registered to vote, I urge you. And there's a couple things you can do. You can log on to your friendly government websites, such as www.usa.gov, to get resources about what it takes to register as a voter, and in addition, what facilities you may register at, such as a motor vehicle division or public health areas. Now, each of you have sat through here, my presentation. I want to make it clear. Again, voting matters. You may say, no, it doesn't. It's only a small ripple in a very large ocean. That is a very good analogy, my friends, because ripples create waves, and waves create motions. Those motions break barriers that each generation has had to break through in order for us to get here today. And just like any time in history, every time we cast a ballot, we are making waves. We are changing history. And I encourage you, do not vote just for a candidate. Do not vote just for a party. Do not vote just for a proposition. Vote for yourself. Vote for the understanding that you as an individual have taken the reins of destiny and decided to cast your own ballots. The generations before us have died to ensure that we, this generation, has a chance to change the course for the future. That being said, I urge you, register to vote, participate. Don't do it for anybody except yourself. Thank you. Have a good night.